Oh, I'm so happy to be back with you, Brice. Missed you. Big hugs, big hugs. How are you feeling, most importantly, first and foremost?
Better. As my voice crackles as I say, yeah, last week I got hit with a gnarly fever. It just kind of went up and down, and I've been congested, but I don't think it's anything spectacular. I think I was just exhausted, and the body will eventually, as everybody knows, your body will eventually go, nope, nope, and you have to shut down. And so that's what happened to me last week. Is I just had to shut down for a few days, and but I missed you too. It's been a couple of weeks because you were away,
I
and then I
was
got sick last week.
Yeah, and then I've been away this weekend. So I've been at the Burning Mask Kuna Flash event, and it was absolutely amazing. We had a lot of Hooners there. And then Dave Mahoney was there, who first time I really got to meet him in person. He was amazing. Lucy Davis was there. But the highlight for me, Brice, is it was a really nice, small, intimate event. And so you could really meet all the participants, everyone who came across, and have proper chats with them rather than a superficial hello and have to go off. So the interaction and the energy was absolutely gorgeous. And I feel quite changed coming back from it, but there's been quite a few sort of realizations, and just like you were saying, your body will tell you when you need a break. I think this weekend for me, there were a lot of aha moments of things that I knew about, but where it's like, now you've got to do it. You really
Yeah.
got to stop putting it off and do it.
Yeah, it's absolutely I think we get this, especially in the truther community, and probably in other people's jobs as well. You get in this role and you feel like you kind of put that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to keep going, and then and everybody, we're not designed to just keep going, keep going, keep going. We our bodies are designed where they need recharging. And there's what's that the Birds song, they actually took it from the Bible: a time for this, a time for that, it's a time for this, a time for that. And
Yeah.
so I know I saw some of the pictures, and I'm sure it was so refreshing just to like not necessarily be on camera, but just be like able to talk about this kind of stuff in a very intimate and like genuine capacity and very private.
Yeah.
So that looks so amazing.
That's
To be
why
able to,
I didn't take any video footage or anything, because I just thought, just be in the moment, because it's really interesting about how much now, I was listening to a podcast, and how much over even just the last 10 years things have changed, and it's very difficult to be in a moment when you're constantly taking a video or taking pictures and things like this. But one of the things leading on for that I would really wanted us to talk about today is about the importance of not fitting in and not trying to mold yourself into anyone else's hole. And I think you're so good at this, Brice, because you've done years and years of your own spiritual development.
well, I think a lot of us, both you and me, and probably a lot of our viewers watching, were probably as children the weird kid.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us already had. Sorry, guys, my Ravi's in the room with me right now, and most people, I don't know if you guys can hear him.
I've
Most
got
people
mine.
know.
Can you see on the sofa? They're exhausted after a long walk. They're adorable.
Ravi gets very excited when I'm on with Catherine. So you hear movement.
Hi, Ravi.
He's cleaning himself right now because I think he thinks he's magically going to go on a date with you after this. So,
I'm there with him. Yeah.
so if you guys hear that, that's what's happening. But I think a lot of us, because I think we both know, Catherine, that a lot of this, what we're going through right now, it's not really political, it's not really medical, it's very spiritual. And it's not necessarily about the macro, it's more about our own individual paths that we're on in this time. And I think a lot of us were like the weird kids growing up. And because I've always heard, I'm Mary Magdalene since I was 16. I hear her. I can see things, not as much as I hear, but I was always fast. So, and even though I grew up in a small school, so it wasn't like we had any cliques, but I definitely was different from my friends. But yeah, when you're trying to be accepted by a group, you're not. It's like you're not sticking to your own integrity or your own sense of self. And what a shame that is. What a shame that is.
It so is. And when you do give yourself the courage, the permission, and really put it into practice, of saying that's absolutely fantastic. It helps with all of the other areas that we've spoken about, Brice, about not judging people, about letting everyone be on their own journey and taking what resonates with you and leaving the rest. And what resonates you will change very frequently as you're changing, as they're changing. And I think it's just so freeing to just accept that everyone's on their journey. And what I noticed from a lot of the discussions that I've had with people over the last few weeks off camera, with all sorts of people and a lot of listeners, is the fact there's a lot of people feel a lot of pressure that if one person loves the one message, then they should love it too, even if it's not resonating. And I think it's exactly the opposite. Let that person love that message. Let that person like following that person. Let that person be listening to what thing, because that's obviously what they need for good, bad or ugly, because sometimes we have to learn hard lessons as well through this journey, which we both know all about that. But actually, when you sort of can just be saying, well, I don't need to listen to that or go to that or participate in that, but I'm really happy for you can, then you free up the space emotionally, physically and spiritually for what you need to come into your life.
And it's also, I think too, we when you notice people, so like when people in your life try to control you, or like when you try to control situations, like I just actually pre-filmed a video where I spoke about my CPTSD and how with that I have the propensity to get OCD about really weird things, very strange things. Like for example, with the laundry, if I do laundry, for some reason, when my anxiety kicks up and my OCD kicks in, I have to make sure the first dirty clothes to go into the laundry basket are super sweaty and dirty.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I know from therapy that's part of my OCD. So it's me trying to control something outside of myself. So what does that mean when we want to control something outside of ourselves? That means that there's something inside of us that we don't feel like we have control over. And a lot of times when we don't feel like we have control over ourselves, it's actually not ourselves. We're not trusting in the divine plan of things. That's what's really happening. And so I think when we start to recognize our own need to try to control things, to try to fit in with others, to try to be one of the crowd, we start to recognize that in ourselves, and we can pull back and self-correct and explore who we really are. Then we're showing the universe and we're showing others what it means to live authentically. And it's somebody was talking about like doing things to help people, like spreading this light to help people like who aren't awake wake up. And that really bothered me because it's not our business when somebody else on the planet wakes up. All we can do is present research and information, and whether they choose to take it or not is their choice. But when we try to force that on other people, that's us trying to control something out of ourselves that is showing where we lack our alignment with the divine, if that makes sense. And so
and also I think it makes real sense in terms of everyone, nothing to do with who's on YouTube, who's got a podcast, who's this, who's on that. Every single one of us is just so important that we have the confidence to be ourselves and speak our truth or act our truth and be authentic in what we're saying, and our actions mirroring up to it. And then the good old saying, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will come, is so true, because you don't know. I met the most beautiful woman. It's making me so emotional to remember this. And I didn't get a chance to say goodbye because I had to leave in a hurry yesterday. At the event this weekend, there was this beautiful woman, I won't mention her name because I haven't got her permission to, where when one of the talks that I was doing at the weekend, I mentioned about how grateful I was when I had my children to find out about the other mothers who'd spoken up about the MMR vaccine and the dangers of that. Because as a young mother, I wasn't going to get any of that balanced opinion from the medical people that were advising us and doing it. And so the fact that other mothers had spoken up and brought that to awareness allowed me to make a decision that I felt comfortable with my own children. And you know, Brice, the lady that started all that due to her son being horrendously vaccine damaged by that was in the audience. And it's just given me goosebumps because she came up after me. Now, obviously, I didn't know that, but that was a defining moment in my life when I thought, thank goodness someone else has spoken up. And but believe me, back then there was so much criticism for anyone speaking up about the narrative, and doctors were losing their careers, even though we now know they were right. And she came up to me afterwards, she said, 35 years ago, my son was really horrendously damaged by the MMR, and all I wanted to do was just stop one other child having to go through that. And the fact that you said that was a big influence on your decision, because you then have both sides. And I made up my own mind. I had listened to that evidence, I listened to the medical, and then I was able to feel confident in making my own mind up about what was best for my children. She said, I can't believe it, because she'd never heard someone say that before. And look at those synchronicities. So you never know when that message is going to change someone's life. You never know. And
she wasn't forcing it. She just put the information out that she had.
Exactly. Yeah. And I needed to hear that at that time. And it was instrumental in then the journey that I've been on since. Yeah. And I just think that, it's so important, because I often see myself slipping into, comparison, or should I be doing this? Or we get a lot of people saying you must speak to that person. And you're thinking, well, if there's no authentic resonance there, I'm not going to do it just for the sake, because other people want to do it. And I think the more you trust yourself on these decisions and don't let outside people influence you, the more beautiful connections you can make in whatever way it is in your life.
Yes. And it's like, what was that? I think it's a Winston Churchill quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. I think that's who said it. If you don't have enemies, you don't have character.
Exactly.
It's like that. When you start to stand in your own truth or your own integrity, and you're okay with not fitting in, yeah, some people are not going to like that, and they're going to leave your life, and they might talk crap about you, but the ones that can respect that and are, but to me, again, that goes back to when people are triggered and by you putting a boundary up, then that's for them. You're taking care of yourself. But the ones that can respect that and have done their own work too are going to be totally fine with you. I've said this all the time. I think we've gotten to this point. It's crazy. We've gotten to this point in our society where to be friends with someone, you have to agree on every single thing.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. And don't you find, Brice, you really find out who your true friends are when you find something that you don't agree with. I mean, you and I will just say publicly to the audience, throughout this journey, Brice, you have been my most authentic friend throughout this. And we have been through a lot together.
Yes.
Don't know about, they don't need to know about, because it's our journey, and we've shared some of it. I'm sure at some stage we might share some more, but we've been through a lot together. But the one thing that set you apart completely for me is you've never not let me make my own decision about it, and it hasn't affected our friendship. And I just think I want to just share that with people, because it's a real example of who genuinely has got your back and isn't trying to change the person that you are. And so big hugs, because you have demonstrated that to me time and time again, and I'm so grateful for it.
Well, I would never try. I just don't. That's, when I'm in the MISO room teaching, I have to be in a lot of control of other people, because it's a safety factor. Mm-hmm. And even though I don't only teach once a week now, it's a lot of responsibility to have to be like tough love, and have to be kind of a lot of, I don't want to say mean teacher, but a lot of traditional yoga, you have to be very tough, because again, it's a safety factor. Yeah. And so in my life, I don't want, like, I've laughed about it before. Like, I have a hard time controlling Ravi on the leash. Like, I don't want to, like, I'll laugh about the controllers. I'm like, y'all, I don't know why you want to control everybody, because this is just stressful. Like, just live and let live. And I know for me in my life, when there have been people that have tried to control and micromanage me, how it's made me feel. And that's one thing I think that as human beings, and I know sometimes I'm guilty of not doing this, but actually putting yourself in somebody else's shoes in a situation. Yeah. And we tend to judge so quickly as to why someone's doing something they're doing, without actually settling into the situation at hand and being like, how would I even respond to this? How would I even respond to, when you're not emotionally connected to a situation, it's easy to kind of see what's right and what's wrong. But when you're emotionally connected, that opens up a completely, it's like I've said continually over this year, I'm so grateful I don't have children right now. Mm-hmm. Because I can't imagine, you're a mom, our friend Stephanie's a mom. We have a lot of our friend Jamie's a mom. There, my sister has 3 kids, and I've seen her stress of everything happening with innocent lives that you are responsible for. Like, and so for there's a lot of parents out there that maybe have done things that I maybe wouldn't have done, but I can't judge them
Yeah.
because they were put in a very tough situation. And so I can't make that judgment. I think that's something you're really good at, Catherine, is like not judging the other side of this too harshly, because we all are on our different paths. As you were saying, we all have to have these different developmental stages in our own paths that we've agreed to. It's like going, my friend Emmy called it a master class. It's like going through a master class, and you have to have your own sovereign spirituality so that you can respect other people's sovereign spirituality too. And it is crazy because I'm 39, so I'm middle-aged, but I'm not old. But my childhood, which wasn't that far away, it was normal to have friends that were really different from you. It was normal I had 2 Republican aunts married to Democrats. It didn't matter. They would just tease each other.
Exactly. And this is just, I really think we're doing one of the really most potent things that had the biggest impact on me this weekend is we were learning a lot about Lemuria, which I'd love to do some chats with you on about, because it was fascinating. But one of the things was having explained that, Lemuria, what is it, the time before confusion? And that just hit a real point for me, because you know what I'm like. I'm a bit like, just do it, just make a decision and do it. I'm quite a sort of, I completely get that when you're in pain and fear, you react in certain ways. And I think we all need to be really gentle there, because we've all been there, and I'm sure we'll all be there again at stages in our life. But equally, I'm not a type of person that's going to stay too long in talking about your problems. Yes, you need to acknowledge the emotions and doing it, but if you want to make that decision to change, you can make that decision to change and get people around you to do it. So that's why I love Joe Dispenza so much, because I heard an interview with him, and it's like, what's the secret to happiness? Someone asked him, and he was like, well, just make a decision to be happy. And that is my attitude on life. Now, yes, so you're going to have challenges. That's where you have good people around you, whether they're a dog, a cat, a guinea pig, a friend, whatever it is, a podcast. There's something for someone, the beach, a tree, my aloe vera plants. They know all my problems. Talk to them all the time. But, I think this is the beauty of it. It's like, yes, I thought this weekend, I thought, God, we talk about the Great Awakening, and I think it's a great awakening back to the time before confusion, when the layers get lifted off, when you see through the veil.
Yeah,
a lot of the confusion goes, doesn't it, Brice?
Yeah, well, and it's almost like your time before confusion. I was thinking about it in our own timelines too, and I've said this over and over and over again. You've had small children. When children are tiny, like toddlers, they're not confused.
No,
they don't even know how to go to the bathroom and the toilet, and they're not confused.
My cats are never confused, Brice. If he just wants something, he knows exactly how to get it. You are so right with the toddlers, and I've heard you talk about your nieces and nephews. That we're born knowing how to be authentic, to say what we think, and to ask for what we want. And yes, we can all do that in a respectful way and expect it when others do. But I think it's just wonderful, isn't it? All these realizations coming out.
Get back to how you were. That's why I say about with the whole concept of God. You don't have to teach a 2-year-old who God is. They know. They see. I think they see things. I think the animals see things, and then we put them into a state of confusion through the world, and then it's like us getting back to that. And it's like children don't, when you see a bunch of preschoolers, they're all playing together. It doesn't matter if black, white, girl, boy, if one likes He-Man and one likes Superman. They don't care. They just like each other.
And they like what they're wearing and whether it matches. And if they disagree with each other, it's forgotten about very quickly. They don't hold grudges. They do have disagreements, and then they forget about it very quickly. But the parents don't. The parents know whose child's hit your child, and then they might not let go of it. And I'm laughing at myself here because I can remember feeling that. But it's just wonderful when, you know, it's not only do they know God, but they are God, of
Yeah.
whatever that means to you, whatever that
They
connection
see
means.
that light in everyone. It's like they don't care how much money your parents have. They don't care what your house looks like. They just want to they just want to be in the presence of each other. And it's like I remember when I was a kid, like having this group of girlfriends that I grew up with because our school was really small, so we had kind of the same people all throughout. And we knew the differences that we had, but we like liked each other for the differences. Like I
Exactly.
remember going to like one of my friends' lacrosse games all the time. And I never wanted to play lacrosse because those sticks come down hard, but I would go watch her. You know, I had friends that were really into theater and we go watch their plays. I had friends into, you know, music, and just being able to celebrate each other's differences and find the differences intriguing. Find them like, you know, like we're so used to now, especially what's going on in the world, yelling at each other, but we're not actually listening to each other and understanding where somebody else is coming from. And I really believe, I've said this before, when Mr. T said the storm is upon us, I really believe he meant us coming back to ourselves. And when we broke through the the scrambling of confusion and
Mm.
came back to ourselves, that was the storm, because that would raise up humanity again back to you know, we always talk about going back to simpler times, back to easier times. And granted, when we were kids, Catherine, we didn't have the internet, we didn't
Mm.
have cell phones, you know, so we were more disconnected. But in a lot of ways we were more disconnected, but we were also more connected.
Really more connected. And I think the thing is we can make a choice. We can
Mhm.
embrace the fact of this beautiful technology that we're talking on now, but there's a difference between embracing it and getting addicted to it. And I think you and I have been talking about, you know, schedules and things like that and everything. And it's so important, because I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago about the importance of integration of the learning and the lessons and the feelings and the emotions. All of these need integrating into your body. And that's something that I'd been aware of that I wasn't doing well over the last few months, was allowing myself that integration time. So therefore, you've got all more information coming to you, but you haven't processed the initial lot yet. And then that takes you very quickly into a point of confusion.
I will say I had a subscriber comment, and I talked about this one other time, and I respect her so much for what she said, because, and I agree with you, because with my big focus now on like spirituality and religion and going through all these missing documents, Bible, missing books of the Bible, that kind of stuff, you know, when I first started, when Magdalene told me read the missing books of the Bible, I didn't realize what path that was going to take me on. And it's led me to now looking at these grimoires, which tell us a totally different story. Anyway, you guys can check those videos out. But I realized that at the beginning, there's a reason why I didn't start with the grimoires 2 years later, because there was so much other information that had to be understood before this heavy stuff could be understood. And somebody posted on a comment about how she was struggling with the whole Isis thing,
Yeah.
Isis and Osiris. And that she understands, I'm paraphrasing what she said, like there's been a lot of deception, and that she respects the research, but she's having a really hard time with it. And my response was like, you don't have to be, you can allow yourself time to feel like you don't know, and allow it, because if you have to make a decision, like you said, make your decision right away, it's going to fry your nervous system, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to let the information kind of come to you and unravel inside of you. And I just respect her so much for putting that up, being like, I'm so confused right now, I don't know what to think. And even just knowing that you're in that place of vulnerability is powerful, because then when you can admit, like, I don't know what I believe right now, I still need to do more research, nobody then can control you, because you've just admitted it to yourself. So your boundaries are put up where you now take control of your sovereign spirituality. You're not letting everybody influence you, you're taking the reins, the bull by the horns, as they say, and actually doing your own development, right? And versus just allowing somebody to tell you what to believe and what to think. And so I applaud that person, because that was her, as we were talking about not wanting to fit in, that was her not being afraid to not fit in
Yeah.
on my channel.
That's so beautiful to see. And it is really lovely when people do that, because also you can do it in a lovely, respectful way like that. And one
Which
thing
is
that you said
super respectful.
so important is we're so used to being in a state where we don't know what to think. And therefore, one of the things that's really coming back to be accepted now is saying, that's great, don't know, don't even go where you think, what do you feel? And I
Yeah.
think that's so important, because you know, when are those times when we don't know what to think? You know, we talk a lot about heart-brain coherence, and it's so important because you need both. You need your thinking mind, we do need our brains, and we very much need our heart and what are we feeling about things. And there's times when it's really appropriate to step out of thinking and into feeling, and it doesn't matter whether it makes sense to you then. You don't need to be able to explain it to anyone or anything. Is trust. What do you feel? Is this something you want to find out more about or not?
And that's when it's important, those times you're so, I was thinking like when you, to feel it, to turn the cell phone off, to turn the computer off, to go, you know, I live close to the North Georgia mountains, go spend a day in the mountains with nature and just allow the sensations to settle in, to integrate in through your body, through your DNA, through your fascia, to feel again, yeah, what that truth is. And so, you know, and it's funny, it's as human beings, we get stuck in these patterns, and we see a lot of the same patterns sometimes in the truther community that we see in the other side of this, where there's this go, 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 believe this, believe this, believe this. We all have to believe this to be on this side, believe this to be on that side. And that's not the case at all, because we're all complex beings, and none of us have all the answers. I certainly don't have all the answers. And I've said this before, like on my channel, I've left all the only videos that have come down off my channel are the ones that the platform has removed. Okay.
Same with me. Yeah.
I've left them all up. Like, so I told somebody, like, I asked about one of my playlists. I was like, listen, go back and listen to it. My opinions though on some of these things have changed, but I'm leaving it up because it's just my opinion anyway. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't affect your opinion. It's the information that I present is still the research, but just so you know, my opinion now has changed. You might hear some different, I'm saying different things now, but I've left that up because as a human being, I'm not ashamed to change my opinion. And I'm not, it doesn't bother me to say 2 years ago I felt differently about something, but now I've been presented more information that it's shifted my perspective. And I think that we also have this incessant need to be like liked by everyone. And so therefore we can't have anything about us that's wrong. We can't be wrong about anything because then we're not good enough. And that's not the case at all. I did a Q&A a couple weeks ago about yoga, and so many people were asking me about how to find a good teacher, all that stuff. And I gave them my opinion, but I said it, I think I've said it a couple times, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, don't be afraid to go to a class and be like, "Ooh, that was awful." That's how I've learned more from my mistakes in my life than from getting things right the first time.
So true. Now I've got a really good example. So this weekend I had a similar conversation with two completely different people. And it was about, I'll be careful how I say it here, but it was about the subject of how corrupt the paying your bills are for things like gas and electricity. And obviously there's a lot of people doing some really good work there, because we had some amazing people talking about common law, and it was just fantastic how they did it. So in one of those conversations, when I was talking about the paying bills, I had some genuine questions that I wanted to ask, and the person got very defensive with me because they'd gone down a different route, and that they were obviously taking it as criticism. I just genuinely wanted to know these answers. And then I had the same conversation. Well, I'm not going to say which order I had it in, but I had a conversation, a different conversation with a different person. They were like, that's really interesting. Fantastic. Okay, that's interesting, because now I can see why some people are confused. I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of that for things like that, because a lot of the time you're asking questions, it's like when people ask questions, to not take it as a criticism, like, thank you. Because I understand that so much more than you do. I'm already there. I hadn't realized that a lot of people are back here, and therefore thank you for pointing that out to me, that, you know, and it's that. And it was a really fascinating example of seeing, like, God, how often do we shut people down from asking questions and try and make them feel silly for it, when actually that really helps us with our communication style, or really empathize with where other people are coming from.
Yeah, it's, well, that's saying two heads are better than one. There's a reason why two heads are better than one. There is no such thing as reality. We know that reality is just perception. And so me growing up in the deep South, I mean, I think, Catherine, I think we actually have very similar experiences, being you being English, me being American Southern, but still there's going to be different, I mean, different perceptions that we're not even aware of with each other because of how we were imprinted as a human being, you know. And so to hear other people's perspective is what gives us a more rounded view of what's actually happening. And, you know, and it's like people will say to me all the time, well, this truther says this and this truther says that. Okay, And
Yeah,
even if they're wrong about what they're saying, it doesn't mean they're necessarily infiltrated or bad. We're all just
exactly,
learning.
exactly.
None of us have any special, like, most of us have the same research tools everybody else does, and we're all just trying to figure it out together. And I've said it before on my channel, I opened up my channel and I wanted to present research in the form of storytelling so that we could all, so I could hear what other people had to say, so I could
Completely.
actually
And that's
hear.
why we do these coffee chats. We're talking out loud to you. We're doing exactly what we would be doing with our friends, is having these conversations and exploring it, and learning from each other and learning from everyone that interacts below. And I think, you know, really being open to people asking questions, and ensuring that you're in an energetic state where you're inviting that, is really, really important at times like this, because if we want to get change, we can't shut down people exploring. And
Oh yeah.
everyone, every single person's going to have a different level of understanding on every subject, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah, we have to learn from each other because we can't learn from the controller. So we have to learn from each other, and we have to be open to each other, and not be afraid to be the weird kid, because that's what makes us beautiful and special, is we're all on our own. Your journey, and I've said this before, you can't compare someone's chapter 10 to your chapter 1. You can't compare your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 1. You can't. We're all uniquely created by the divine. We're all here on our own master class. And so we learn, we are each other's teachers, and we
Complete.
are each other's students.
And the world wouldn't function if we were all doing the same role and we all had the same knowledge. It would be completely out of balance. You know, you can't have, there's no point having 10 bakers in a town and no greengrocers, you know.
Boring.
You've
It'd be
got
so
to have your
boring.
own different roles and things, because we're looking for balance. We're not looking for one thing, we're looking for balance. And most importantly, to just really embrace and enjoy the journey, because joy comes from a deep connection with all that is, on a different level to the happiness, which can be much more at a sort of superficial emotional level. When you
Yeah.
have that joy and that wonder, I mean, I've got, we must get Liz back on. I
Oh,
miss
we
her.
got to get Liz back on. Yeah, I was actually
It's
thinking
only
about her
because
the
we've
other
both
day.
been away at different times, but that's why I love this sweatshirt. Wonder, wonder, wonder. And I'm touching the wonder, not my boobs, guys. Looks like I to patting my breast. But you know, this is why I love this, Liz, because this just gets you into that joyful, connected state with everything and everything that is. Don't get me wrong, I have to remind it. I love wearing this because it reminds me. Every time I look at it, I'm like, yeah, get back to that state.
I mean, I have my t-shirt on with headstand upside down, and a lot of people will say, like, inversions in yoga practice, we do Shirshasana, the headstand, for like 15 minutes. At the end, you're upside down for 15 minutes. People are like, well, that's a different perspective. You're
Yeah,
putting your body in a different, to see things differently. And so it is in that wonder too, is we see kids, they go out. I mean, our friend Liz, you guys know, whenever we film with her, she's got her adorable Levi, and he just goes. He's
yeah.
like a little explorer, and you watch him like pick things up and like look at it, and he's not afraid to play in the sprinklers and see how the water makes him feel. And you see him looking at his hands when he gets wet. And all kids are like that. They're just exploring. That's all they're doing, is exploring. And then we need to get back to that, because the world is such a beautiful, it really, I said this yesterday. I don't know if I said this on a show, or if I said it, I think I said it to a person, can't remember anymore, that, we talk about how this is a rough planet, and there's a lot of polarization here, and there's a lot of tough lessons on this planet, but this is also a really fun planet too.
Oh yeah, it's
And
a
I
really
joke,
fun.
I joke about getting lost and I should have been in Venus, but I love Earth. I love my life. Even though, yeah, I want things to switch, I actually love my life though, as it is right now. I love the
That's
people
why.
around. And every day is, I love my little baby boy Ravi, is just I just love seeing his sweet face every day. And although he can be a little mouthy sometimes, but that's okay. He's a little sassy. I like his little sassiness.
Completely, and making us listen in a completely different way. Oh, I love our coffee chats. I really love them. So we will be back next week with that. I think we're probably going to hopefully be back with Jamie
Yep.
week for the second agreement out of the 5 agreements, because that was a really, really fun discussion. And all these things are useful reminders. And I'm using them for reminders as me, because trust me, I need them as much as anyone else.
Same. So
Thanks so much, Brice. Have a really amazing day. Thank you, anyone, for watching. Thank you so much for taking the time to comment. It really does help at the moment if you're drawn to it and you like it, just to like, and if you feel drawn to share it or make a comment, it just sort of helps with all these sort of shadow banning and everything. So if you feel that that resonates with you, great. If you don't, that's fine as well. Thanks,
Bye,
then.
guys.
Take care. Bye.